Hello, look at all these people popping up. How wonderful. Okay.
Hello, this is Stacy from Forward Cities.
Hi, Stacy from Forward Cities. You're the 919. I'm going to rename
That's
you.
me.
Okay. All right. And hey, Nick.
Hello, Celia. How you doing?
Hello. Who's 701?
This is John Mahachik in Fargo, North Dakota.
John in Fargo. John with an H. Okay. Great. Wow. Okay. So I have the call being recorded for those of us who haven't been able to join us yet. And it's nice to see everyone, or sort of see everyone. I only see Nick and Adam's wonderful faces, but that's all right. We will get started in just one second. Did everyone receive the email from me about the proposal for the calls going forward? Okay. Yes, thumbs up.
Yes, but not fully digested yet.
Okay, that's all right. We're going to we'll go over that that call proposal, just a quick overview, and we'll also go over some of the things that didn't get communicated well. So I will take the lead on some of that, because some of it was our responsibility. I'm talking about the ESHIP team and others. So I have kind of a roll call, but I see John twice. John, are you on the phone and on video as well?
Yeah, I did the phone first, and then I clicked the Zoom link, so I suppose I'm on there twice.
Okay, not a problem. I see Nick twice, but it might be just the link.
Yeah, just only be me once.
Okay. I also see another Nick, and is that somebody else who maybe utilized the link that we had previous?
Oh yes, that might be part of my team that they used my invite. So it should be Stacy.
I've got Stacy on the phone. Stacy, are you on the phone and on video?
I am on the phone.
Okay. So I don't know who this other person is.
Might be Eliza. So Eliza Salmon, who joined us as ESHIP Research Manager.
Okay, so I see Eliza. Eliza, are you on the phone and on video?
Yes, or I'm just trying to be on video.
Okay, so this other person might not be you?
I don't think so.
I know we had a thing, I think last time, Norris used Nick's link. So Norris, you're not on the call, are you? I know he had a conflict. So, and can I ask who the 972 number is so that I can?
I am here. I'm not really, it's whatever the internet said.
It is. Okay, so I think that's the one that we used before. So Norris, I'm going to rename your call. Who's the 972 number? Nobody's on 972. Okay. We'll just let it go. So thank you all for joining and bearing with our technical difficulties. So first, I just want to say thank you all for your energy and your interest in not only goal number 5, but for the work of ecosystem building and the ESHIP goals. And glad you're all here. So before we dive into a little bit of updates and information from me, I just want to do a quick check-in, and the question for today is, how are you arriving today to the call? So we usually popcorn, which would mean that you call on the next person, and I will call in the first person, and we'll just go around so that we get a little bit of check-in, just very, very briefly, to say how you're arriving to the call today, whether you're tired or excited or looking forward to the short week or whatever it is. And I will start with Reagan, and when you're done, call on the next person, please.
I'm arriving at the call interested. I'm eager to see where you guys have gone. Unfortunately, I was able to meet you guys in St. Louis last month or May, so I want to see where you guys are going. Next up, well, go down the list. Adam.
Hey Reagan, thanks. I'm arriving, preparing for 5 days off the grid, so trying to wrap up all my loose ends before I disappear for a little bit. So with that, I will call on Nicholas.
I'm arriving tanned, even though the video doesn't really show it. It's like super hot and warm here in North Carolina. I'm kicking it over to Alistair.
I'm arriving interested, excited as usual, and hiding away from the beginning of our usual hot and humid summer in DC. And I'll bounce it to John.
I'm arriving looking to see how I can help, and I'm also just excited that with this being 4th of July week, this is the only thing on my calendar today because I think everybody's on vacation except for me. At least it feels that way. I'll kick it over to Eliza.
Cool, thanks. Hi everyone, I'm Eliza. This is my 3rd week as a full-time person at Forward Cities, so I'm really excited. I've been watching some of the past webinars, and so I'm really excited to get to know you guys and to see what this is all about. And is there anyone who hasn't spoken? So I'll throw it over to Stacy.
Yes, thank you, Eliza. I'm arriving energized. I'm just coming off of a family vacation. So, is there anyone left? I don't have the.
You've got Meg and
me.
Norris.
All right, Norris.
Louisa. Norris might be muted.
All right, then maybe I'll pop it over to Meg.
Awesome. I am coming, I'm going to say committed. This is my first day full-time at Greater MSP working on Forge North, which is our coalition of partners that support startups and innovation here in the region. I've been working as an independent contractor for about a year, so excited to start today and be committed more than ever to this effort. And I'll pop it over. Louisa, do I hear your voice?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, cool. Well, congrats, Meg, on that. That's wonderful. I was just in Minneapolis like 2 weeks ago, last week, and it was fantastic. I am coming excited and energized to the call. That's it. I'm not able to see who's on, but if Norris is able to get back in, I'll ping to him.
Yeah, my Zoom is doing according to the Zoom, I am muted, but of course, if you can hear me, I am not muted. So coming a bit frazzled, it's been, everybody's piling up all these meetings and calls to get done before, but when 2 of the calls are with, the NSF and the United Nations, somebody at the United Nations, it's hard not to get a little bit excited. It makes me think first day of July, first day of a great month ahead. So I'm coming at this optimistic. And I'll go to the irrepressible, the shy and retiring Samantha Steidel.
Hey guys, hey Norris, nice to hear from you. It's nice to be here. I missed the beginning and I apologize, I'm running a little bit behind. I was getting off another call. What was the prompt? Cecilia?
How are you arriving today?
Open. I'm arriving open to hear what everyone has to contribute, where we all are. I'm kind of on the heels of a crazy doctorate research month, and so I'm just like in survival mode. So I'm just here to listen.
Great. Thank you for making time. And I know that Ben is going to try to join us in the next 15 minutes or so. He's wrapping up a call. So thank you all for checking in. I will share with you the document that we are utilizing. This is a post-ESHIP strategy proposal that we shared with initially with some of the ESHIP champions. So ESHIP champions have had a little bit of time to decipher all of this. And what we did was try to take some input from all of you as we proceeded on the call. So initially, post ESHIP, I'd spoken to, and you're in the cadence of what happens throughout the month, you are the first Monday of the month. So so this is usually the call cadence that goes on. So I'd said what we were going to try to do was to get some input from all of you, and then maybe send around a survey and get some input. Well, the input came in just as robustly as the calls happened. So this is the first blush at what we're envisioning the calls to be. Before we get into that, some things transpired at the ESHIP Summit, post ESHIP Summit, and especially on the call that took place last month. So I want to address that before we move forward, because I think it's important to address that before we move forward. So during the course of the planning of the ESHIP Summit, as the ESHIP team, which would be myself, Christine, Lauren a little bit, mostly Andy, and those of us who are focused on the ESHIP goal side, we're trying to figure out a way to share some examples of what's going on in the field, and taking the information of what's been going on in other parts of the foundation, in other parts of the country that we knew about. What ended up happening was we had made time for that opportunity to show the rest of the ESHIP community at the end of the summit. Here are some examples of some things that are going on. And because there was not a lot of information that was sent out prior, or a lot of filling in of information post, there was a bit of space between what happened and what the intent was and the impact of those things. And we didn't know until it was brought up to us that there was some tension around that. And I appreciate the people that brought up the recognition that there was tension and a lot of information that wasn't shared. And because of that gap between what happened and the intent and the impact, it is very natural for people to fill in that space. And depending on which lens you come at this with, there's filling in the space and making assumptions and not having all of the information. So myself and Andy, I will speak on behalf of Andy because we've had lots of conversations. We've had conversations with the people that are involved to say we will take full responsibility, and we do, for not filling in that information and the gaps. Forward Cities, with and Nick and Stacy and Eliza are on the call, but Forward Cities was one of the organizations, along with a couple of others, that were recognized as doing the work that involved things that were similarly aligned to specifically what's happening in goal number 5. What they're working on has been taking place for several years. Their relationship with the Kauffman Foundation predates the ESHIP Summit goals work. And we want to be very clear in that what they've been working on and what they're doing is an example, a rendition of some of the things that affect or input into Goal 5, specifically Goal 5.2, right, the initiative around that. They are not the solution. They are an example of things that are aligned with that effort. And it is not saying that because of the work that they do, that initiative is solved by any stretch of the imagination. And actually, their funding for this work that was being granted by the Kauffman Foundation comes from a separate bucket of work that is aligned in the ESHIP work, but not specific to the ESHIP goals and the initiatives and the RFP and the pilot project and all of those things that we have been talking about on these calls. So if there are a couple of things that happen. We judge ourselves by our actions and other people by their intentions. We also judge the intentions, but not necessarily understand the impact of those intentions. There's a ripple effect that goes throughout the community when things happen. We want this to be an open place where people will share not only the excitement and the positive stuff, but if you have questions and if you're unsure, then we also want to be the receptacle of being able to share that information, because if it's not done here, we cannot do community elsewhere, right? So it is Christine and my responsibility, our call, to help with creating and fostering an environment where we create and build relationships. Out of those relationships, we have elevated visibility. The visibility is the communication, and it has to go in all different directions so we can do the work. If we're really good at visibility, then we can see where the alignments are. The alignments help us not work in silos, and we work in tandem, and the hope is that there's coordination so that we're not duplicating efforts and we're not fighting it out for things that are beyond us or whatever. And the ultimate hope is that there is collaboration. Neither Christine, myself, Andy, anybody on the ESHIP team, nor the Kauffman Foundation can work on the collaboration. That collaboration comes from the community. We cannot even really work on the coordination, because then we become the puppet masters, right? I can't make you work with somebody. I can only create and foster the base of which we build on in order for that to happen. So to that end, I apologize for any miscommunication and any lack of information that led to what transpired. I hope that in sharing all of this, that there is a little bit better understanding. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. You've got contact information, emails, any other ways to communicate. Is there anybody, and I want to be, I'm especially grateful to people, specifically to Alistair for asking that things be defined in a manner in which helps create the community. Is there anything that anyone would like to share beyond that?
This is Alistair. I do have one question. I don't know if you want to deal with it now or later. That is, how was it nearly a year ago, I guess, Kauffman funded a number of research proposals. Are there plans to help us connect as a group to results coming out of those research proposals?
That's a great question, Alistair. I don't really work with the research team specifically. The research team is headed up by Sammy, and although it's part of the ESHIP department, I don't have a great amount of contact with them, I can ask, and I'm very happy to ask Sam and AJ and anybody else who's working on that. My specific area of focus is ESHIP goals and the ecosystem building practitioners in particular.
Yes, but we wouldn't want to have silos within the foundation, right?
Well, we wouldn't want to. I'll tell you what I shared, and specifically what I shared with Norris was, I don't know the information that you want to know about. And I'm only privy, not because of the siloing or the privacy, and I want to get away from the word transparent, right? Because it's not a matter of not showing or being very opaque about what goes on in the foundation and all of that. I don't know what information you'd like to know, but if I told you just the things that I know, it's a lot. And then to compound that, to increase that by the amount of stuff that goes on, it seems like a relatively small building with a couple of hundred people. There's so much stuff that's going on that if we shared all of that, or I asked Andy to come on and tell just what he's working on inside of ESHIP, I think it's so overwhelming. My mind blows up at the information. I know that when I come I spent a week at the foundation last week, my mind is really like a marshmallow by the time I leave. There are days that Christina and I leave the foundation and I swear we can't order a meal because you can't formulate the words. It's that much information.
So a solution then might be, I don't want to dominate the conversation, but might be, let's say for this group, are there any results from the research that was funded through these proposals related to measurements and metrics? So that would reduce the number of groups who are working. I'm sure there are a few on that, and then within that are the results that might be of interest to this group, and having our comments of interest to the researchers also.
I can, if you will send me specifically an email, and I will type a good email address for everyone to use when it comes to that information. There's an email address that's consultant.kaufman.org. So it's my first initial last name, so C. Wessinger at consultant.kaufman.org. If you will send me your requests, I will forward it on so that the people who have those answers can at least respond. Is that fair?
Thank you very much.
Alistair, Cecilia, there is a list of the latest round of the Knowledge Challenge. A few of them are ecosystem related. It's more broadly about entrepreneurship. They're all pretty early. I would guess a really early stage at this point because the funding, they didn't announce the funding like only a few months ago. There was a prior round, and there are again that one was supposed to have, it's called Uncommon Methods and Metrics, and there's been. And that was like a year or two before that, and there's still not really a lot of things coming out of those projects yet. But if it's not on their website, I do have those lists somewhere, and I can send it on to whoever's interested. Because some of them are really intriguing, and a couple I still don't understand, but those might be the best ones.
Okay.
I'm happy to pass it along. If that'll help, I can pass that along.
Right. So we'll cover it in as many ways as possible. Does anybody else have anything else they would like to share? Okay. So if not, we will continue with the proposal. And so what we're hoping for the interest of these calls going forward is that as far as the visibility and alignment goes, what I'd like to do is take the information on the beta dashboard, which everybody should have access to. If not, I'll definitely share it in a follow-up email so you have that. So in the beta dashboard, I'll update it so that each goal has a specific page, and on the page will be the videos of the calls, just like this, so that people can catch up and figure out what's going on. We'll post the project canvases that came out of the past ESHIP Summit with the information on some of the people that are working on it. We're trying to still work out some of the communication that goes out to the community, but I will. In doing our part, we're gonna make sure that all the project canvases are there. Anybody who's signed up to be involved, kept in the loop, all of that will be going on, so there's more visibility. And then from there, on these calls, the goal is that the first couple of minutes of the call, whoever's working on specific projects will be able to update the group so that everybody knows what's going on. The other part, thank you so much, Reagan, for sharing that. The other part would be that there would be a value add and a learning that can come out of these monthly phone calls. And to that end, I want to invite those of you, specifically, I know we have a couple of ESHIP champions that are on the call who can help co-facilitate, co-host this, but other people in the community that would like to be involved in curating content. I would love for things like, if Alistair would tell us for like 5 or 10 minutes some of the learnings that he got out of writing his book, because it's all about complexity, things like that. Those kinds of things, you know, if Sam wants to talk about what her doctoral thesis is about and how that influences, I know Adam's working on some things. So learn from each other. Maybe there's a content expert or somebody you'd like to hear from, then we can make the ask of them coming in and talking for 5 or 10 minutes, kind of a fire starter to that helps influence and I don't know, just added knowledge around the things that we're working on, and then have the rest of the call be a discussion about those things. So there's a value to you and your time. It's not just about the initiatives and the projects. Although outputs are important, I think it's really integral for us to, as a community, learn together and support each other in our work. If there is an interest in sharing the things that you're working on in your work, that's wonderful too. So I've done a lot of talking. I want to open it up and give people the opportunity to kind of chime back. And did I mention I was in sales? So I'm always comfortable with the discomfort of quiet awkwardness. So, I mean, I'm happy to call on you and if you don't have anything to say, but.
Well, I am uncomfortable with silence, as you know. So, but Adam really does have a very cool project.
Just to
I'm
even
also
add,
very comfortable with silence.
Dang it.
But thanks for the shout out, Norris. I appreciate it.
I think that's also even a way to connect what Alistair has said and Norris added on, that there might be interim results, that some of the uncommon metrics and uncommon methods, I don't know what the full official title was, Evan's portfolio, some of the recipients of the grants can report where they stand even if they don't have final results. I think that's a nice way to loop it even into the process.
Yeah, I can chime in again. I don't want to dominate, but with what my particular challenge is right now, in that in writing the book and doing the research for it, I've explained the importance of knowing something about complex systems. But there's a gap here, and I don't know how to bridge the gap. And that is that there are people like me, probably Adam and others on the call, who are thinking in those terms, occasionally using what somebody called too many long words. But that's certainly one way of thinking, and I think it's very beneficial. On the other hand, you've got groups, some are practitioners, perhaps more than looking at the more basic knowledge. And there is a communication gap between those that talk about things like maybe uncommon metrics and complex systems and heuristics and rules of thumb versus those who are every day in the trenches doing things, building up communities, building up ecosystems and facing those challenges. And I don't know how to bridge that gap. And I've been trying it and thinking about it for a year, 2 years or more. And so anything, I'm not asking necessarily now, but think about it. Any suggestions any of you have in the future, that would be really helpful.
Hey, Alistair. This is Sam. I noticed that the Kauffman Foundation put out an article about connecting entrepreneurial research with policy and practice. And that was just submitted, let me see, June 27th. So I'm going to put a link to it on the right side, but I feel like that is similar to what you just said. And I had sort of been thinking the same thing.
Yes, it should be good to share that with others. I did read it, yes.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
there were a couple of things in there. One, I don't remember the details, but it was about providing, I think, assistance in housing, where a comment was made that they learned to maybe focus more on one area, or one part of, I think it was Detroit, or something they were doing. And that immediately struck me as the idea that you don't have to optimize anything, every little component, to have a completely optimized whole. And so, yeah, I did. Thanks, Samantha. I jumped on that.
Yeah. And by the way,
any ideas you have would be terrific.
sounds good. And nice job with your book.
Thanks.
I think there's an opportunity. I feel like yours being the Goal 5 Slack channel is probably the most active Slack channel. And it's a really great place for people to share information and have a discussion about it in between calls, so that it doesn't just go from one call to another month later, another call. And I think you're all great at modeling that behavior of having those discussions. And Eliza and Stacy, if you're, and John, I don't know if you're on the Slack channel, but I'm happy to send the invitation out. I think that there's somebody will probably beat me to sending out the link to invite people, but we definitely welcome all of you, and I will send the invitation to everyone who I don't know of that's on the call. So so that's great, and so there are a couple of different ways to stay involved and be engaged. The Facebook group is a wider audience. There's about 1,200 members on the Facebook community that are ecosystem builders or ecosystem curious that are on there. There's a global community on the Facebook page. The people that are on the Slack channel are probably more interested in diving a little bit deeper and having those more in-depth conversations about things and working towards that. And then, of course, these monthly calls. So thank you, John, for letting me know you're already involved. Are there any questions per se or anything else that people want to share?
So I have one, Cecilia. I'm wondering, there was a really interesting idea that surfaced on Slack probably 10 days or 2 weeks ago. And that idea, pertains specifically to Balto, myself, some other people that have some technologies and some interests that don't completely fit into Goal 5, but Goal 5 is kind of the closest home that we can find among the ESHIP silos. So the idea that surfaced was, well, might there be a cross-cutting opportunity for folks that are making tools for ecosystem builders? And I'm wondering if you could perhaps share some of your thoughts with us, Cecilia, about that as an idea. And if your intuition is, yeah, that's an idea that isn't ridiculous, it merits discussion. How would we go about beginning to have those discussions? Because obviously this would be a bit of a change for how ESHIP is organized.
So as far as tools there's tools for ecosystem building and there's tools for entrepreneur assistance, right? ESOs. And I think from my understanding, things like the marketplace are probably a good group to have a discussion with. Currently, marketplace involvement involves organizations such as Co-Starters and SourceLink to try to create the structure in which we house that information so it becomes a searchable network. So that if you have solutions, and I think the question always revolves around, is it for-profit, is it nonprofit, is it a nationwide solution or accessible nationally? Because some organizations have tools and resources. Let's say I'm gonna use Meg as an example because her focus is in her specific community, right? So Minneapolis has, and maybe some of St. Paul as she crosses over the border, has a great benefit from the work that she's doing. But her focus is definitely her city and her small community. It's not to say that Meg doesn't come with solutions that can be scaled or replicated for other communities. And I think the hope and the goal is that we come up with more resources and more tools that we'd be able to share. But if you already, like yourself and Valto, have solutions that work across other cities and regions, Forward Cities is a great example of using applied metrics and certain methods to convene people. What I really like about Forward Cities model is I'm not personally a huge fan of people or programs that just come and solve for without engaging the community. I really like that there's community engagement, and I think some of the tools that you and Valto are working on have an element where you're engaging the community that you're specifically working with, right? And I know a lot of you are familiar with other organizations that go, oh, we have the solution. We're just going to come in and tell you, and then we're going to go away, right? Because that's that transactional thing. And I think the difference that I see with people who are very integrally involved in ecosystem building is that it is actually creating and building the ecosystem. It's not just about, I'm just going to sell you my solution and then go away, right? So those kinds of things. But to answer your original question, I feel that marketplace is probably a good look at tools that can be shared across that are developed by people in the ecosystem. So I can put you in touch with, trying to figure out who's overseeing marketplace right now. I'd probably say it's Lauren in relation to other contractors that are working on trying to create that. There was a beta at the ESHIP Summit. So those of you who were at the ESHIP Summit on the app, you could search the marketplace. But again, it was just a beta.
Cool. All right. Well, so that's a great solution for everything as it stands today. Many of the ESHIP goals are more forward-looking in their posture. And I guess I wonder if there's not an opportunity for something equally forward-looking with tools, which is to say, if marketplaces for things that are existent today, great. But what about extending that? And really, it seems to me that nowhere on earth is there the perfect basket of tools for ecosystem builders, right? That's the reason that all of us have come together. So these tools need to be, increasingly codified as partial solutions to the problems that ecosystem builders face every day. This is how we get lift. This is how we make the job of an ecosystem builder better. So without these tools, without these methods, it's going to continue to be much as it is today, very lonely, and perhaps we can provide community for these folks, but what they really need is efficiency, what they really need is lift. Wanted to plant the seed there. Marketplace is great. Enoch and those guys are awesome. I'll do my best to reach out. We put our hat in the ring back 2018 ESHIP to be included in that. I have no idea what happened with that. I'm guilty of having lost the thread. But I think that there is room for talk. If you talk about Valto and I integrating our stuff via APIs to make a 1 + 1 = 5 type of solution, that would be wonderful. So it's things like that that are more forward-looking in their posture that don't have a home currently within ESHIP.
So remember, going back to the relationships, visibility, alignment. Those are the things that I can, and while I'm supported by the Kauffman Foundation for doing the work to help create the scaffolding, and I think that's the correct term. We've been wordsmithing like you would not believe over the past little bit to try to figure out what it is what we do. So the scaffolding that's created, the structural things that house the building of ecosystem building communities, right? It's kind of transparent, and it's loosely based, but it's squishy because it needs to be flexible in what the community needs. And Christine and I, while we are funded by the Kauffman Foundation to support the work, we do work with the community. So we answer to you, the community, in helping to support the things that you need. All that being said, I want you to remember that the Kauffman Foundation is only one national resource provider, okay? They are the one with great reach as far as being able to put out a call and say, hey, all of you who are interested in ecosystem building, we'd love for you to come and have a conversation, right? So they're the conveners because they can, they must. And what we're searching for is other national resource providers. I know that Christine has a list of 50 to 80 that she's been having conversations with and engaging them and finding out what their mission and their purpose is, right? So that they can align with which community organization, which foundation, which corporation has interest in some of these tools and initiatives. What would you like to help us put forward? And then Christine and I will build, hopefully, that visibility and alignment structure so that we can all find each other. To that end, there's only so much that we can do, and I think we get to the coordination and collaboration between Adam and Valto. That's between Adam and Valto. I can only create the environment for you to have conversations, which you started to have, which is great. What you do from there is really up to you. So nobody needs permission from me, the community, the foundation, or any of those other organizations to go forth and do the things that you're interested in and want to do. We just want to create an environment where we're hopefully incentivizing in some way that community is better together, right? And we can do more being together, but that's about all that we can do. Does that
Fair
make
enough.
sense?
Thanks. Sure.
I think Norris had a great idea on Norris. What did you call it? The big ask, or what? Can you?
Oh, the unreasonable request.
There you go.
That's always a great deal of fun. But
So
do you want me-
explain that.
Hello? Oh
Can
no, I
you-
lost sound.
Oh no, we can hear you, Norris. Will you explain what you were talking about the unreasonable request?
Well, I will endeavor to be uncharacteristically concise. Basically, you ask people, for instance, you put up a whiteboard at a meeting and saying, I need this. People will say, I desperately need to talk to Bill Gates, or that's whatever the unreasonable request is, and people put it on the board, you put them, and it is staggering in a large, especially in even a moderate-sized group, how many people have the answer. It's not unreasonable to them; it's trivial. I was telling Cecilia that one guy, there's a guy who is sort of a famous, brilliant techie, but very reclusive, and he desperately needed to talk to this guy, and we all start laughing, and the guy got mad. Why are you laughing at me? Because the guy you want to talk to is standing next to you. I mean, it sounds crazy, but in fact, there's a whole book on this. This woman the magazine would they'd pay her for an article if she could get a direct quote from Bill Gates. And in 5 phone calls, wandering around, she not only got to Bill Gates, she got 5 hours with Bill Gates, and she got a book as well as the article. That simply, here's something I need. It's crazy. It's insane. I need, in the academic world, I need data on X. It doesn't exist. And somebody will go, oh, hell yeah, it does. Or I need to talk, there's a person, I need an expert on this very narrow topic. Somebody in a group as smart and as widely connected as all the people on this call. You throw out that request. And once a few of them start hitting, then it kind of cascades, and we have enough trust in this group that we can make referrals pretty readily. Does that make any sense? I see Sam staring at me.
I think there's a little bit of nodding. Yes, Adam nodded. So I have a request of this group. I have a couple of requests, actually. So I want you to think about what things you'd like to learn about, what things that you would like to share with each other, so that it helps with the professional development and learning that can happen on these calls. So start thinking about that, and we'll be putting out an invitation, trying to figure out the best ways to capture that information and curate it. And so I'm not here to be the conductor. I'm basically here to turn on the Zoom call and have you all take part as a community. The thing that, and so I don't know the best way to put out the unreasonable asks or curating a list of things that we would like to try to accomplish in the next couple of months, to say, hey, from here till December, 2 or 3 people would raise their hand and say, hey, we'd like to help curate some of that content. Let you go to it. I will turn on the Zoom call, we'll record it, I'll upload it to the dashboard, and so this information can live on. The one thing that we would like to have, as far as the ESHIP team is concerned, and because you're all metrics people, you are the ideal community to help think about how we can do this. As we started in 2017, when some of you came to the ESHIP Summit. Since then, we've shared information that's gone on across the community to inspire, enrich, empower all of you to be involved so that you all show up on a phone call. How can we know that we're getting closer to the ESHIP goals? When we got together back in 2017, we said we believe that there is a thing called ecosystem building. And if we were to help support this field of ecosystem building and to make it a professional field, then we can help entrepreneurs move along and just make it a little bit easier for somebody to live out their dreams. So how can we know is the question. And how do we measure that? Is it because we have more people showing up on these Zoom calls? Is it because more people are using the word ecosystem building? I don't know, but all of you know the answer. So just like everything else, I will remind you, we don't have all the answers. Not myself or Christine, anybody on the ESHIP team, the Kauffman Foundation. We keep looking for the answer room, and I swear to you, as many times as we go up there, there is no answer room at the Kauffman Foundation. We do firmly believe that all of you have parts of the answer, and together we're going to be able to answer those questions. And only together will we get better at it and have more solutions to things that we can't even think about. So I want to give everyone an opportunity to speak that has, especially those who haven't spoken, but to not to have to solve for this, but let's keep communicating about this. And I'm going to email everybody on this phone call with a follow-up with the dashboard and the proposal again, and so you can all chime in. And you will have each other's email addresses. I don't like sending out everyone's email address until they've actually had some form of interaction. It's a little creepy when you get emails from people you've not known. But I want to give everyone ample opportunity. So I'm going to start popcorning, and tell me what's top of mind, or how you feel about the call, or what you'd like to know going forward. And we'll start with Louisa.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hello? Okay. I think that I am finishing the call illuminated, and I guess, I don't know if there's like a one word for it, but just basically like I appreciate the transparency, quote unquote, and the healthy discussion. So I think everything is in a good place, and yeah, I will popcorn to my popcorn. Did I answer the question?
Yes. Yes, we'll let you go. You can pass it on to somebody else.
Okay, perfect. I will popcorn to Alistair because I know he's on the call.
I was hoping you wouldn't do that. But...
You're like, I only know of like 2 people for sure who are on the call since I'm not looking at the screen.
Yeah, I think it was good. We got a lot of things out in the open here, and I think we have plenty to think about. And I guess I'm still a little concerned about how we're going to get more sharing between the research group and the ESHIP group, but let's work on that. And I'll call on Samantha.
Thanks, Alistair. So the biggest takeaway that I have from this call is the brilliant idea about throwing out a challenge that each of us have, or some of us have, maybe we can bounce around. But one of the reasons why I attend this call and these calls is because I'm a big believer in the intellectual capital and the brilliance that is behind all the people that take the time to attend these calls. And I think it's rare knowledge. And so that's very aligned with why I am here, because I want to engage with all these people with these big challenges. So Norris, I really appreciate that. Thank you. And I am going to popcorn over to Adam.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm leaving grateful for the community and still a little confused about where my best place is and how specifically I can contribute other than thrashing around in the woods by myself. So anyway, looking forward to continuing the amazing discussions on Slack And let's see, with that, I will pass it to John.
All right. So yeah, I guess for me, it's just I appreciate that this is occurring and this happens. It'll be a matter of I'm just going to determine the value of the input I have and the effort and the time I have. The big picture is that I'm, looking forward to the byproduct of everything, but not just wanting to wait. Like, I figured I'm not going to just wait and let everyone do all the work. So I figure I should at least be on these calls in case I can be of any value to help, instead of just being a bystander. And let's see, Nicholas?
I appreciate the call a lot. Thank you, Sila, for trying to tie these individual strands together. I think that's not easy. I hope we'll have a chance to dig a bit into the document you shared originally to make the distinction between the different types of calls, and we'd encourage everyone to read that and then assume that this is something that if no one really objects is like the rule, or make this a conversation around this a bit as well. Kicking it over to Reagan.
I think I'm leaving the call a little bit confused, but I think it has a lot to do with the fact that I'm just a little bit out of sorts about what seems to have transpired over the past couple of months. But nonetheless, I'm still very interested in this call and having the connections and the networks that come from it, and seeing where we go, and of course how I can help and how I can engage. I'm going to popcorn over to Eliza.
You're on mute.
There you go. Thanks. So I am still trying to understand kind of what to take away from the call. I feel like there's a lot of things, but I'm excited to take learnings from these calls and implement them into our research tools and what we think about as we work on them. I'm also interested to see how insights from this call can feed my understanding of what's local and what's generalizable and what can be both. And I will pass the torch to Stacey.
Thanks, Eliza. So I'm still really interested in learning more about everyone who's on these calls and all of the experience that everyone's bringing to the table. And I believe someone said intellectual capital. I mean, it sounds like we have a lot of good experience and knowledge on these calls. And so I hope to learn more and learn more about everyone. I am not sure who I can pop to next.
I think it's Norris.
Norris. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Ah, yes. Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking at the screen and it says I'm muted. I do not understand. I do not understand software. I seem to be the only person this happens to, so I'm assuming it's just, demonic possession of my phone. I'm leaving encouraged. If you haven't been to the Slack channel, the discussions that Adam and Balto and Alistair and I occasionally chime in with some foolishness. We're generating sort of spontaneously some marvelous stuff, and the fact that it doesn't seem to quite fit the mold is probably a really good thing. It tells us we're moving forward. So I'm very optimistic. I did have the thought. I wish in early August I'm going to be doing a thing on ecosystem research at the Academy of Management, and I wish some of my colleagues would actually even have 5 minutes watching what the ESHIP people are doing, because they have no idea what the real questions are. They're just so stuck in the ivory tower. So I'm grateful for all the great minds on this call who don't have their heads wedged up an ivory tower. And so there's nobody else I'm looking as I think everybody's talked. Sam.
Nope.
Did you talk?
I think everybody's talked. Is that
Well,
true, Sam?
Anyway, I'm looking forward to, and I can't wait to see, have an opportunity to to read Sam's doctoral work.
Great. And Meg had to hop off the call, but she said she's excited for the future. So, so we will all try to figure it out. Reagan, anytime you want to hop on a call or have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and we will go from there. I hope everybody has a great 4th of July, and we will look forward to getting together and trying to figure out if you can help figure out how we get closer to knowing that we're actually closer. That would be very helpful to all of us, because I think we want to make sure that we're on the right track. And as you all well know from being metric geeks, is that unless you can measure it, we're all running around in circles, right? So thank you. Be safe. We'll talk to you soon.